Morning guys, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. Back out here in another video in our series on this Gladiator build for vehicle camping. Overlanding, for lack of a better word. And we talked a little bit about power in the last video. We talked about the Jackery 1500 and how we were going to use that to power most of the things in the vehicle while we're on a trip. The next concern I want to talk to you guys about is storage and collection of water. And you can carry a certain amount of water with you when you leave. You can carry jerry cans, but if you have a jerry can that's capable of filtering water on the fly, then you have very much a situation like you do with the Grail water filter when you're walking through the woods and you want to filter water on the fly so you don't have to boil water to disinfect it. You can do the same thing in large amounts with this Lifesaver jerry can, because it will filter the water as it leaves the can. So you can fill this can up with water. There's a filter inside that you pressurize the tank and it pushes the water or forces the water through the filter as it comes out. We're going to take this thing apart and look at it a little bit and explain that to you today and talk about what this thing removes and how well it works, how many gallons the capability is for it to filter, and all those types of things. So stay with me and we'll get started. So looking at the component parts of this, you have the can itself for the body, which is about the same size as a 5-gallon jerry can. It's a little less than 5 gallons. You have the filter unit, which also has a charcoal top that you can place on here to take taste and things like that out of the water if you choose to do so. And the filter itself just slides into the back of the can where you're going to release water from. And then you have a cap here that goes over the top, and this is where your charcoal filter would be placed if you're going to put a charcoal filter in there to remove taste. And that just gets screwed on top, and it has a spigot on it to release water or get water out of the container. And we also have a shower component for this that we'll talk about in a minute as well. And then you have the pump portion of this, which is what actually pressurizes the tank itself. And it goes on the fill side. And this is the side that you would dump into the creek or the water body or whatever you're collecting water from, and you would screw that on. And then the way this works is, once you get that assembled, you would pressurize the tank with several pumps of the pump, just like that. And then you can tilt the can sideways if you choose to do that. And when you press this, water comes out at a pretty good flow rate, depending on how much pressure you have in the can. But all the water that comes through this has now been through the filter that's beneath that. You can also set up a shower type hose or a spray nozzle to this unit, which is here. And it hooks directly onto this by pushing a button and clipping it on. And once you pressurize the tank, I'll put a little more pressure in it for this operation to force it up. That can be used for rinsing dishes, things like that, or taking a shower if that's what you choose to do. And with this black can that I've chosen, I can leave this out in the sun to heat that water up all day and get a warm shower right off the top of my vehicle if I choose to do that. Okay, so a little bit about the specs on this can. 99.999% of viruses, bacteria, protozoa. Pretty good filter system. Made in the UK. This can is 4.8 gallons. So it's almost a 5-gallon jerry can. Of course, you've got some water displacement with the filter, the pump unit, things like that to change that. However, I have an OD green one of these that I've been using for over 2 years now. I've used it in the hot tent. I've used it down at the instructor camp. I've used it for classes. I've used it in my vehicle. And the reason I got a black one for this build was so that I could absorb heat with this can for warm showers and things like that if I chose to do so. And it also matched the truck better than the OD green, but that's beside the point. So they're not cheap by any means. The capacity of this is 10,000 gallons of filtration before you need to change the filter. The charcoal filter, you need to change it a little more often, but you get 5 briquettes of charcoal that will go in that unit to change them in and out if you want to do that. I choose not to use it 99% of the time. unless the water really smelled bad, like sulfur or something like that, or I was filtering chlorinated water for some reason. I wanted to get that taste out. I wouldn't bother with those charcoal filters. But the filter unit itself is 10,000 gallon capacity. So again, real quick, pluses, minuses. Really the only minus to me of this thing is, number one, you've got some moving parts here that can break. They're spring loaded, but I haven't had a problem with that yet. So I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying that is a con if you're not into things with moving parts. The shower nozzle that connects to this thing, it does leak at the connection, but I think that's more because of the pressure that you're putting on it and opening the valve and not releasing constant air pressure through the hose to push water out. So when I pressurize this thing and cover it with my finger like this, it doesn't leak around this valve or anything. So the problem is definitely in the hose connection, and that's probably the con. You're backing up pressure in that thing without releasing it, and it's pushing water out the connection. I don't think that's a great big deal. It's not that much water. And if you're using lake water and things like that in this thing anyway, you've got plenty. So it's not that big of a deal. But as far as cons go, that would be the only one for me, other than weight. But if you're going to carry 5 gallons of water, the weight's going to be virtually the same anyway. And you can see I store mine right here on the very end of all of my other gear. It's tied in there with a piece of rope so it's not going to flop around. And I've got the on-off valve to the outside so that if I stop at camp, I can connect that nozzle, that spray nozzle, to that and run it right through the side window of my smart cap. And that's where my camp kitchen setup goes. So I can just lay that thing in my dishwashing pan and leave it there, turn the valve off so nothing's leaking, and I'm good to go. And then when I want to rinse dishes or something like that, I have the ability to do that. If I need water, I have the ability to get it very quickly without necessarily having to take the can out of the vehicle every time I want water, only when I need to refill the can. Okay guys, well I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I appreciate you joining me for another video in our build series out here talking about water storage and water procurement and the Lifesaver filtering jerry can. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.